Today, I'm going to share with you 5 reasons why moving to the Dominican Republic is way better than Florida. And if the first 4 don't convince you, trust me, the 5th one will. How's that for making you stay all the way to the end, huh? But I mean it. The 5th one, to me, is the ultimate equalizer, so make sure you check that out. Let's get into it. Look, I don't even know why this is a debate, to be honest with you. It's pretty much non-comparable to me. There's a big winner and there's a big loser. The loser is Florida.
Emotional damage.
But somebody made this ridiculous comment on a prior video. He says, I don't really get this. You can get basically the same lifestyle in Florida at the cost of what you pay in DR with even more convenience.
¿Estás loco?
I think I'm saying that right. You have to let me know. I might have messed that up. But it is the most ridiculous, it's crazy. I get the sentiment. Why not just stay within the country? And I understand that, but here's a fun stat. Did you know that today in the United States, 2024, 34% of Americans have a desire to leave the country if they could? Don't believe me? I'll put it up for you. Now, the previous record high happened in 1975. Back then, it was 11% of Americans. So for those of you looking at like, well, I guess I could just move to Florida. First off, no. And I'll give you 5 reasons why. And second off, that instinct you have that like something's kind of messed up in this, country right now. It's pretty accurate. And let me do my disclaimer. I love my home country. It's given me every opportunity, including the ability to just have a passport and come here. And it makes me sad to see what's going on up there. And remember, we came down here just for a year for an adventure, and the reasons I'm going to give you are actually why we stayed. Lessons learned after being here. Also, one more disclaimer. Some people are going to be like, yo, man, you never lived in Florida. That's true. However, the company I worked for had a home office in Tampa, Florida. So I spent anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks at a time, at least a dozen times, anywhere in Florida. I used to travel there frequently, and my family and I spent a month in South Florida in early 2021 during the winter to get away from the cold of Michigan. Add to that, recently I've gone up to what I call the frigid north a few times since living here, and I'll share a little bit of that in my experience as to why DR way better, or is way better, than Florida. And so without further ado, reason number 1. Dan, put it on screen for us. The number 1 reason, the weather. I remember coming down from Michigan. I drove 2-3 days. My wife and kids flew comfortably because we were going for a month. I had all the toys and dogs in the back of our minivan. So I drove down, and I remember getting there away from the cold of Michigan and going to the beach and wanting to get into that warm water, except it wasn't warm. Remember the George Costanza about shrinkage? Yeah, that water was freaking cold in the wintertime off the coast of Hollywood, Florida, which is about as close to Miami as you can get without being in Miami. To boot, the temperature was in like the high 60s, low 70s. Never in most parts of the Dominican Republic. Now look, if I want to get frigid, I'll just go to Jarabacoa. It's beautiful there. The weather's amazing, the environment, the culture, the restaurants, the town, the mountains, it's unbelievable. Way better than going to Florida. Now look, some people are like,
oh, that was a cold winter back then, man.
Well, I also heard that for this past winter in 2023, 2024, I went up twice. First time I didn't bring a sweater. Why should I? It's Florida, the weather, right? It was 60 degrees. It was cold, rainy, ridiculous. Never here in Punta Cana or most of the Dominican Republic. So the next time I went back, thank God I brought a sweater. I went into Miami, drove over to Naples, and I was freezing. Again, temperatures in the 60s. So reason number 1, why DR obviously trumps Florida, the weather. Let's go to reason number 2. Pop it up. This one gets people a little dicey, but it is safety. Look, I talk a lot about mass shootings, school shootings, just being an American thing and not down here. And that alone, that's a point to be made that could stand alone as I win on the point. But allow me to add to it. The homeless problem in the States right now, including in Florida, is that we have become in the United States a full-on entitlement state. I recently went back, it wasn't in Florida, granted, to Austin, Texas. And the homeless are different. I did the whole, I'm walking with a key between my fingers because I'm going to have to swing while I was walking down 6th Street. Because this dude was eyeballing me and clenching his fist. He was ready to go. I went back to a podcast studio, and the producer there told me,
oh yeah, one of them hit me in the chin the other day. I'm like,
for what?
He goes, because I wouldn't give him my taco.
That's not an aggression I remember there being at one point. A friend of mine the other day who lives in, ready for it? Florida, told me he was on his bicycle and a homeless dude was chasing him. The homeless issue in the United States has morphed into this sense of entitlement. Now flip it over to DR. Are there homeless? Sure, but I'll be honest, I've seen very few, if any. Probably some folks do in Santo Domingo, Santiago. As I've gone around the country, North Shore, South Shore, Punta Cana, and even in Santo Domingo, I just don't see like masses of people living under a bridge. And those that are homeless or low income or close to homeless, I'll be honest, they're selling peanuts or cashews at the toll booth when you're waiting in line. They're cleaning your windshield when you're stopped at a stoplight. They're selling roses or windshield wipers or whatever. I've always said that entrepreneurship here is survival. It's necessary. There's not anything to support or hold these folks up. You can debate that's a good or bad thing, and I don't want to see anybody in pain or anybody homeless in any country whatsoever. But when you compare the posture of the homeless, you have one that are entitled and apparently getting aggressive in that entitlement in the United States. I've witnessed it personally and I've heard from others. Whereas here, the homeless are looking for ways to earn money. The point I'm trying to make is there's work here, there's entitlement there. In that dichotomy becomes a more safe culture here. Might you get your cell phone swiped? Absolutely, here in the Dominican Republic. But you're not going to get beat down for carrying a sack of food because this person feels like they should have it instead of you. This might be a dicey one. Curious to see what you say in the comments, but that's my take. Safer here. Check it off. 2 for DR. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 is the culture. So let's take that homeless point and let's add in the elderly for a moment.
You're thinking, wait a minute, what are you doing all this together?
Actually, this is kind of an interesting thing. When I see offended people in the comments, I guess I know where they're from. People here don't get offended. It's funny. But I digress. But anyway, the elderly and the homeless. Homeless here often, from what I've seen and heard and learned, still live somewhere because families don't abandon family members here. Now, it gets aggressive. They can actually take somebody who has a mental disorder and have them committed. No issues, no questions asked. That could be good or bad, depending on who you talk to and what the reason is. But similar with the elderly, a question I get a ton is, hey, are there good elder care facilities down there in the Dominican Republic? And I say no. Now, that's not completely true because there are elder care facilities here, and I've heard there's one coming to Punta Cana. But that's a Western sort of push. Here, generally speaking, people take care of their elderly relatives. They take care of their mom, their dad, even if they have Alzheimer's. And I talk to people in this neighborhood alone who say, yeah, our friends are taking care of their parent who is, in deep stages of dementia. The other benefit here is you can actually pay for a home health aide or somebody to come into the home and keep an eye on your parent or elderly relative at a really, really reasonable cost. That's not why Dominican people take care of their family members. Family is culture here. There's a Christian values that sort of still permeates the society very deeply. That's one of the things that we align with as a family being down here. Not a churchgoer, not a Bible thumper, but I love Christian values. I just love what it means for a society. All right, on to number 4, and this is going to be education. Now, when I compare education for the people that are watching me, you're coming down here and you're saying,
Hey, I want to find a good bilingual school, a good private school for my kids.
you're not going to put them in a public school. For those that are, turn off the channel and go somewhere else if you're just saying,
Oh, you're wrong because there's public schools.
I know that. I compare U.S. public school, which is far superior to Dominican public school. Why? Because even in the lower income, lower middle income neighborhoods here, people tend to pay for private education. It's normal. Whereas in the US, public education is normal. And we are comparing developed to developing. We're not going to deny that or dispute that. So for comparison, public education in the United States, private education in the Dominican Republic. So what does that mean? Well, here we don't battle with school boards over what should go in the library or who has the rights to my kids' privacy. Teachers are on the team with us. We're not sitting on each side of a union wall debating on the way this should go. U.S. public schools right now are preaching to the masses that we need to bend and be tolerant of people with mental disorders dressed up as gender dysphoria. Oh, that's going to get some people riled up. I love every human being, no matter what you identify as, but I do believe it's a mental disorder. If you disagree and you just can't stand to listen to me, I understand that you're not going to watch anymore. The public school systems and adults in the United States would agree on a few things. If a kid is smoking, drinking, doing drugs, getting in fights, not submitting their homework, wanting a tattoo, you got to involve the parents. But the moment a kid says,
My name's Bobby, but I want to be Bonnie.
let's not tell the parents, just call him Bonnie as he wants and protect him from the evil home environment that he might be in. Kids need a permission slip to take a bus to a zoo. But the push now is that kids don't need permission from their parents to change their gender. I mean, where are we? Now, look, some of you are going to say,
No, that's not the situation everywhere.
I get it, but there is a policy trend moving in that direction in the United States. Scares the hell out of me, and it's even implemented in certain places, especially more socialist places like California and New York. When you look at the quality of education, it's no worse, maybe better in the private system here And we're not dealing with the politics enforcing virtues and values on our kids that we don't get a say in. And, as I always say, school shootings are not a thing here. So education, 4 for 4. DR's winning, baby. All right, last, number 5. This is the biggie. This one, if you don't agree with the first 4, if you think I'm wrong on the weather or safety or culture or education, first off, you're delusional, you're wrong, and we should all understand that I'm always right. But this one is undisputed and takes the other 4 and makes them even more true as wins for DR. And that is what you get for the money. Look, can you have your laundry done, your cooking, and your cleaning 7 days a week between 2 people and pay them $800 a month and be told that you're overpaying and evil? Can you have a tire pop because your wife likes to hit curbs? Yeah. And have a new tire replaced with labor cost you $80 on a 16-inch tire? Can you pay like I do, $4,000 a month for my King's Living or whatever the hell people say I live, and be in a community in Florida where you're walking distance to top restaurants, a Whole Foods, doctor's offices, and every amenity that you could possibly think of? Not for that price. Look, I'm the guy who likes to warn people off of the minimalist lifestyle. I just watched a video where a woman, she lives on $800 a month, and the title of the video is Minimalist. If you are in the minimal mindset, this is not the channel for you. I'm not saying maximize, pay every dollar into your lifestyle, but I like to live abundantly. I like to live without worry about cash, about money. I don't want to think about the right side of the menu. For those that understand that, you get it. The dollar here for me travels way further in terms of what I get and how I get to serve. So when I donate to charities here, that dollar impacts people way more. When I hire people and we pay for their insurance and or their transportation, we're benefiting people locally, paying them what many Americans would be like,
Oh, that's slave wages.
but these people know how to live on this amount. That's lifestyle here. Our cleaning lady makes $500 a month and she's building an apartment building. Think about that. Way better budgeter than I am. But what you get for the money, outside of the weather and the safety and the education and everything else, the culture, what you get for the money here far exceeds where your dollar will go in Florida or most places in the United States, except for Michigan. We pay more here than we did in Michigan, but it's cold in Michigan. Still love you, Michigan. Beautiful state, especially in the summer. So bringing the comment back up from the beginning, Dan, please. I don't really get this. You could go basically the same lifestyle in Florida at the cost of what you pay in DR with even more conveniences? I'm glad you asked it as a question. Maybe it was pure curiosity, and I intentionally blocked out their name and face because this is not a shot at them. I just took the comment. I don't even know who this person is. Love you, whoever you are, if you know who you are that put that comment in. But I hope I've just showed you the 5 reasons why you would choose here over being a Yankee up there in Florida. Now look, education, going back to that point, some of you might want more on that, and that's okay. I get it. In fact, I'm going to drop it right here for you. Tap that video, you can watch it. Please be sure to subscribe, drop a comment, and a like. Helps me grow the channel and support all of you. See you on the next one.